LongEZ 2 is 7-8. Ready? Mark!
Before you put your brake up. Easy flight, run them up.
Have a good flight, Frank.
Thanks, buddy.
It was one of those times where it's just like a dream come true. You just know that what you're experiencing right now is something that will just never happen again, or you'll never experience it again. It's like, it was perfect for the centennial because it comes once in every 100 years. I couldn't even imagine this kind of wonders occurring again.
I was really excited. It took a long time for that to finally sink in that the day was coming, that we were ready to go. And then the flight taking off out of Atlantic City, weighing everything out and everything, and figuring down at Bader Field that we weren't going to be able to get airborne because of the weight that we were carrying with all our stuff. So I told him, I said, well, I'm not happy with it, and let's just go ahead and you pick me up over Atlantic City, and that's what we did. We went over there, packed up, and had 12,000 feet over there to take off from, and it worked out great.
So here we were, Friday morning, July 25th, and Brad and I took off out of Atlantic City International and headed down to Suffolk, Virginia to meet with Steve Olsvac and Wayne Hicks, who were actually running a little fly-in that had been rained out, unfortunately, in the earlier in the spring.
Got airborne, had a gorgeous, beautiful, smooth ride all the way down, and geez, it was really nice ride. Very exciting. My main deal in that airplane was to be the videographer in the back, and it worked out really nice. I have a lot of experience with flight inspection in the back of the airplane, bouncing around all the time, and I've shot a lot of video footage, so it kind of made it easy for me to do that. And then getting the different shots of the clouds over land, and swinging the camera around, taking some shots of me in the back of the airplane and out the back, that was pretty exciting. The new cameras and stuff, it's just remarkable, some of the video you can get.
So this was a good chance for, we had offered up a lot of the Canard guys to meet at Suffolk on the 25th of Friday. And what we were planning to do was, some of the guys were going to be flying cross country or from long distances, and want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of decompress from their trip to the area. Tune-ups, there are obviously two Canard builders, Steve and Wayne, right there on the field, and all these other guys coming in. There would be opportunities for people, some support basically. People to clean their airplanes, change a tire or whatever it took. And even some glass work for possible damage. Whatever it might have taken, we could have probably handled anything. So on Friday we arrived there at Suffolk, and were greeted by a couple Canard guys, Tim Swift and Edgar Flagg. I had never met either one of them. It was nice to meet a couple new faces. Both nice looking LongEZs, I sat around there for a few hours, and finally old Smurf Bear showed up, Steve. And great to see him, man. He's one of the best dudes I've met.
Yeah, so then we took off that afternoon with Tim Swift and his silver LongEZ, and we flew over to Matteo, and got a lot of really nice shots out the back of him. We were flying underneath of him and around him, and cloud formations and stuff. Really made for some good footage.
Tim, he was leading, and I was just flying on his wing for the camera stuff, and Brad was taking some shots, getting used to the dynamics of formation flying, taking pictures of other airplanes when you're flying. It's a little tricky. Most people would think it's just a point and shoot, and well, you can point and shoot, but you're not going to shoot what you want to point at. Yeah, it's a good way to explain it. So we're approaching Manio, and Tim checks in with Tower, and he's heading in, and he's kind of heading in for the wrong runway. And as a good wingman, I kind of pointed that out to him, and he made his turn and picked up the proper runway.
And race 36, your traffic's on about a mile an hour. Doesn't appear he'll be a factor. And you wanted the low approach?
Yeah, we just make a low pass, and then we'll enter back into a downwind 423.
Very good. You're cleared low approach.
Race 36, ship a 2 for a low approach.
He thinks that's the runway right there.
What kind of airplanes do you got in your flight there?
LongEZ and a very easy.
Hey, check your runway 37.
Manio Tower, seaplanes on short final. We're landing towards the southwest, and we'll stay north of 23.
Seaplane, thank you. Cleared land.
Hey, Tim, check your runway.
Gotcha, break.
We actually we flew up initial as a two-shift and planned on a pitch, and twofold. I want to get a picture of him flying up initial, and then getting a shot of the airfield with all the airplanes down there. So as we did, we flew up, and sure enough, Brad got some nice pictures of all the canards and all the other airplanes lined up down there on the field, and that was nice to see, and it was pretty exciting. You're starting to get really excited. Here we are, we're actually at the pit, and oh man, it's just going to be a wonderful time, and you know it's coming. And to see all those canards down there, oh man, that was just awesome. That was just a beautiful sight. It really was a sight for sore eyes. So Tim pitches out, and we space for about 3 seconds, and we'd make our pitch, and we come around, and Brad actually filmed the landing from over the shoulder. And it was kind of interesting to see. The first time he had done that too, and we didn't see that tape till later.
Then we came over Matteo, and remember looking down and seeing all the airplanes out there, and a couple guys in the pattern, and we came in and landed and rolled out, and there were all the airplanes, everything. I mean, it was just amazing to see that many airplanes on the ground. I just got such a thrill to be able to see all of that. And we taxied in, and there was everybody putting all their numbers and stickers and everything on their airplanes, and we had brought a lot of race numbers with us to give to the guys, and we stopped there for probably an hour or so, and we met Jack Watson, number 25, in his speed canard, and shook hands with him. He came running up to the airplane and introduced himself to me and everything.
It was great to see Jack again, and he introduced himself to Brad in the back seat. Jack's another lovable guy. He's one of those guys that everybody just instantly loves. He's just a great guy. He's just a lot of fun to talk to. He's captivating, and he's a charming dude. And it was nice to see old Jack again. And then we saw Eric. Eric came around to the airplane trying to get us parked with the other canards, and explained to him that we were just going to be there for a few minutes to drop off the numbers for the other folks that had ordered them from us, and drop off some t-shirts. We were unloading. We were trying to unload all the weight we could because we were really packed. And we were, as it was, we had shipped our tents and clothes and jackets and things. We shipped all that stuff to Oshkosh, and it was sitting there waiting for us. And we really didn't want to carry all this stuff with us. We were pretty much overweight as it was. So we hung around there for a while, and we met up with a couple guys that were actually planning on staying overnight in Suffolk with us. So we met up with David Orr, number 45, in his LongEZ, and Beagle, David Orr is Beagle, and Cookie and his son Jasper in their cozy. And we went back as a 3-ship, so we taxied out, and the weather became, how would I put it? Magnificent. This was certainly the most incredible, beautiful weather I've ever flown in. There's never been a time before or since that I have enjoyed a flight like this one. So we landed in Suffolk, and everything went well. Met down, by the time we got down, let's see, Harry Manville had showed up in his Defiant with Steven Sorensen with him, and Steve, he's a funny guy, character. Chris and Kevin Funk and their co-stay, they had made it in at that point. So after a while, we piled into a couple of cars and we went over to Steve Olesbeck's house and call it Camelot. It's this beautiful home in Virginia, near Suffolk Airport, not too far, about 20-minute drive. And it was really just a wonderful night, man.
No, well, I'll tell you what, he put on a spread. He had us all spent at his house. He and his wife, they just put on a fantastic time for us. They had rooms for us. They had beds everywhere in the house for us, showers, you name it, and all the cooking that they did and everything that they did was just utterly fantastic. You just couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, it was just, the camaraderie was fantastic with everybody there. I mean, geez, we must have had 25 people in that house that night. And boy, and the stories were going, and everybody just had a really great time. That was a lot of fun.
That's interesting. That's a Russian culture. Huh? That's a Russian culture. What's that, man? When we go to a party, you think you go home? No. Everybody stays and washes dishes in the place where you that's how it is. I mean,
That's pretty much the same here.
Well, I gotta show this to Frank's wife because she'll never believe he cleaned the dish.
You know how much those tapes cost?
Yeah, I know.
50 bucks.
Well, I just gotta have proof that at least you cleaned something. Oh yeah. You helping him, Steve?
you guys can have incredible footage.
What?
You have incredible footage.
Look who we got, Beagle over here.
Get a little go with me, look in the camera. And smile, and here we go. Come on, give me a shot.
It died. I hate when that happens. But then there's Frank, still working. Everybody's in bed.
I actually I was treated well by Steve. He gave me an actual bed. I don't know where a lot of the guys slept on, couches and wherever they could find a spot. But Steve took care of me. It was nice of him. Good job, Smurf. Love you, babe. But that was great. I don't know how I can repay Steve for his hospitality.
We ended up sitting down and listening to Frank during breakfast over there. Also, some of us had breakfast, and Frank gave a little sermon on formation flying to everybody, and that took a good hour and a half. But he wanted to make sure everybody was, going to be real safe on this 9 ship that we were going to fly over.
The most important thing here is safety. I want it to look cool, but it's not going to be cool if we have an accident or a problem.
So it was nice. It was a real good presentation. We had a big board there, and he was drawing everything on there. Gave everybody their number or call sign number to, that when he called your number or started the call, everybody in the line, answered their number to say that they understood what we were doing next.
So the plan was the next morning we would take a 9 ship. Well, we were hoping for more than 9, but the way it turned out, it was going to be a 9 ship because anybody that wanted to fly in a formation from Suffolk to Manio in the morning to kind of open the festivities had to be at my briefing, my safety briefing at 7 a.m. in the restaurant. if you were late, you didn't fly in the formation. It was pretty much that simple. The issue there was simply safety. You can't take 9 guys or 10 guys or whatever it would turn out to be and expect to fly any kind of decent formation, especially guys that haven't done it before, and safely into an area where there's going to be a lot of traffic and a lot of potential hazards. So, if you weren't at the briefing at 7, you didn't fly with us. Luckily, Jay Blum, he had made it in. The flight line, it was fog, and it was actually quite beautiful, but he somehow landed in this, and he taxied, and I was very excited because I fly with Jay an awful lot. We fly in air shows together as often as possible, and when we can't fly in them, we do static displays and pretty much explain the routine designs to the best of our abilities. And it's very fun, it's a great time. It's very rewarding to pass on some of that to people. Jay's actually flies lots of young eagles. We just both love sharing the dream with people as much as possible. So anyway, I was real excited to see Jay make it on time because him and I, we don't even really speak on the radio when we fly together. It's all hand signals. We've done it a lot, and enough to know what the other guy's going to do. And again, it was beautiful. Hey, buddy, you're here. Thank God, my wingman. Unfortunately, Carrie and Carol Fritz showed up just a little late, probably about 7:15. They couldn't get in from the weather, so I couldn't fly them with us. They did lag. They stayed a couple miles behind the formation, but it was a shame. It would have been nice to have a 10 chip. So anyway, the formation was going to be race 2-0. That's us in the lead in our very easy, and with Jay on my right wing as number 2, and then Chris and Kevin Funk in their cozy on my left wing with the Defiant, Harry Manville and Steve Sorensen in our 4th position, and the plan was 2 diamonds. So in the lead diamond, it was the very easy, LongEZ, cozy, and Defiant, nice mix, right? Well, the second flight was led by Beagle, and it was another diamond, and then on his left wing was Mark Zeitlin with Wayne Hicks as a co-pilot, and then Cookie and his son Jesper on his right wing, in the cozy, and then Edgar Flagg as in the slot for that second diamond, was number 8. And then we had a Berkut with us, Misha, and Richard Riley. And the problem is Berkut obviously is much faster than we were going to fly. I was only going to fly this whole thing at 130 knots, and the Berkut's stalling at 130 knots. So they were floaters. That's all they did was they just floated around the formation, and we were briefed as such. And the plan would be we would fly down to Manio, and I would set us up on a 10-mile final for runway 5. And that's what we did, and the diamond, with a trailing diamond, and then as we crossed over the numbers, the Berkut would boogie on underneath us and pitch and land. As we cross over the approach end of 5, the Berkut's going to basically dive at the numbers, do a low approach underneath the formation, clear us, go into work. He's going to land first, and we'd exit the air, egress around, come up in switch formations into basically echelon, is what it was, and then pitch for landing, and that was the plan, as briefed. The formation could have been a lot better, but really my concern was that it was safe, that nobody got hurt or lost or worse. And my goal was to take off with 9 guys and to land with 9 guys. So we did, and it worked beautifully. Now, back to Suffolk. We got out to the flight line that morning, and the sunrise was kind of interesting because it was masked. The actual orb was masked by the fog, but it made for some beautiful photography once again. Just one of those pure luck things, and that was kind of neat to see. And I wanted to make sure everybody was taking their time. I don't want anybody rushing, because I have seen too many times where people feel like they need to be there now, and they skip things, and they miss steps, and this is when accidents happen. And that was part of my briefing. I made sure everybody was eating breakfast and relaxing and laughing. I was trying to keep the briefing jovial, because I wanted them to enjoy it and not think they were being lectured. It's not an 8-ship echelon. It's going to be like this.
Oh, come on.
Huh? Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, if we did an 8-ship echelon, it'd look great. But I gotta tell you what number 8 would be doing. It would look just like this. Yeah. That would be on that wing. It would be all. It's gonna be bad enough with a 4-ship. The whole idea of the entire thing is just to explain to them and to let everybody understand that this is not really a dangerous thing to do if you just do it with your brains, you know, you think about it. So I explained some of the very basics to them. I said some of the hand signals because I knew people would get lost. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to get lost. I'm going to go, you know, easy flight check. 2, 3, and I'm not going to hear 4. Easy flight check. 2, 3. And I'm going to go. And then at that point,
I'll chime in with the rest.
you know, somebody's going to look at him because he didn't answer. Go. I explained that I didn't want any chatter on the radios. I explained the only things they should be saying on the radios is their race number. At one point I said, the only thing I want to hear out of you, and I pointed to Jay, and we brief this every time when we fly, I said, all I want to hear out of you is 2 or it leads you're on fire. And they got a laugh out of that. At one point he said, no rushing. There's absolutely no rushing at all. And Misha, being a Russian, said, but I'm Russian. Take your time. No rushing. There is no rushing. Period. If you feel Russian. Huh? So once we get the tower 2, we say, easy flight check. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. So all I want to hear. All I want to hear out of Jake Long is,
What about lead, you're on fire?
that's all I want to hear. Nothing but 2 or lead, you're on fire. It was fine. I didn't mind any of that stuff in the briefing because it was a lot of the time, a lot of people were just kind of getting to know me, and I didn't want to come off, you know, harsh either. So, but it was a really good briefing. It was enjoyable. It went well. So after breakfast and after the briefing was completed, we head out the airplanes. I said, okay, everybody need about half an hour to get ready. Obviously, we'd been setting up the planes earlier too, but this was final checks. So what I did was I wanted everybody in order. I want them lined up on the tarmac in their flight order. In other words, I would be the first airplane, then Jay, and then Chris and Kevin, Harry and Stephen, so on, all the way down the line. This way, nobody had any thinking to do. All they had to do was follow the guy in front of them and do what everybody else was doing. So once everybody had their airplanes lined up, I made sure that everybody had set their altimeters to the field before we even got on the planes, set the proper frequency, and it's just little things like that. I just want to make sure that even the small things were taken care of. Because I knew none of the guys would really be worrying about navigating too much because it was my job. But if they got lost, you know, part of their pre-flight was already done for them. And I thought that was important at the time, and I still think that those kinds of things are important. I walked down the line, checked with each crew, made sure everything was done. Look, you know, kind of take a little look at their airplane, make sure it wasn't tied down anymore. Just little things, you know. I didn't really mention these things at the time, but I was really looking for those kinds of things. I was expecting people to make mistakes like that, leaving a tool on their wing when they started the engine. Just little things. And I was just looking at that stuff. So we got the engine started right on time. Everybody checked in, and we started our elephant walk. And now once we got down to the end, the weather had cleared significantly, and unfortunately the airport started to become rather busy. But again, I couldn't rush the flight. I had to do everything by the numbers, and I had to take my time doing it. And so I got everybody down to the EOR, end of runway, and in flight order, and then I actually taxied down the line and looked at each airplane, and I made sure any speed brakes were off.
Before you put your brake
I
up.
didn't make them close their canopies yet until I started hitting back up the line. That was great. As I went down the line, I actually told Chris and Kevin, put your brake up, you don't need it anymore, you know, because who needs them taken off with their speed brake open? You know? Then I turned around and came back up the line, thumbs up to each guy, they give me a thumbs down, and that's what we did. Each guy thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. make sure everybody's ready.
Okay,
We're
as you
gonna run
fly
their engines up.
close and latch, check your
Check the
speed brakes, check
canopies,
your numbers
check
one
the
more time.
brakes again. One last look at your numbers, and then I stopped. No waiting. I wanted them to be bored. I wanted them to say, geez, what's he doing? Let's go. I didn't want them going, hurry up, hurry up. Worst thing in the world. So also had briefed that the only element departure would be Jay and I, because we had been doing it for a long time. A lot of times, I should say, a lot of times. Departures, and then the weather and the runway was perfect for it, so we did it. Everybody else took off. As soon as the guy in front of them broke ground, they could roll. Right? It was never a conflict. Never a conflict on the runway at all, no matter what happened. So if the guy in front of them boarded, the second guy would never even start rolling. So we got airborne, and what we started was basically a 95 knot circle around the airfield, and a very wide, slow circle, which would allow everybody to basically lead turn the circle and join. And it took a while. It took about 3 or 4 circles around the field. And wouldn't you know it, just as we get this going, the parachutes, this guy's jumping out of airplanes, everybody and their brothers coming in for a $100 hamburger. It was kind of rough to lead a 9 shift through that, trying to really control there's King Air coming in, trying to really basically be an air traffic controller while you're trying to keep track of your chicks. So that's what I was doing. I was talking to different airplanes, trying to explain, okay, we have a 9 shift, we're 3 miles east of the field, we have try to get in here, do whatever you're doing. Anyway, it worked out. We finally got joined up, and call it a formation. It was safe. And actually, I thought we did pretty good until I saw some of the pictures that Ed took. Kind of changed my tune, but it's okay. Nobody got hurt, so we'll do better next time. So at any rate, we headed down to Manio, and we actually climbed up. We had to get over the top of Elizabeth City's airspace, which was like 2,500 feet, I think. And we did that. It was really a perfect flight. There was no problems at all. Nobody had any trouble. Nobody had to fall out. Nobody got lost. It went great. It went real well. We approached Manio. I finally got in touch with the tower, and they were expecting us. They knew what we were doing. And, we made our initial pass in the 2 diamonds that Coop did as briefed, and he ended up pitching and landing. Of course, the tower at this point got confused because he didn't realize that Misha was going to land first. So when Misha called, he called in his race 30 instead of EZ9. So the tower didn't realize he was part of the flight. Yeah, it got a little confusing. So we made our turn out, came back around, but now we were in our right echelon.
Back, it was a right echelon, and we had to make a left-hand turn, so Frank told him there was no way we could do that in the condition, in the situation that we were in at the time. And
I keep you advised that next set, flight of 9 is going to make another pass here.
9-10 uniform.
Race 20, you're going to make another pass to land?
Hey, affirmative. Race 20's flight's turning base now, and we'll be pitch out for landing.
All right, what I want you to do this time, I've got traffic coming in from the northwest. I want you guys to break right in our right traffic for landing.
Unable, sir. We're in our right echelon. It won't happen.
Okay. We'll plan on the left turn then.
Thank you.
And he obliged us, thank God. And we did that. Pitched, landed. After we rolled out, I parked and waited for all 8 airplanes at this point. Remember, Misha had landed already. All 8 airplanes to land safely, and then we taxied in an elephant walk again.
You're down.
Well, it went well. We did it.
Nice job, man.
Thanks. Wasn't too much work.
It was kind of neat. It was really interesting to taxi in like that, because when you see all these airplanes coming in one shot, it gets your attention. And it must have been a really pretty sight for some of the folks to see all these cars coming in together. And it was great to lead it, and it was I appreciate the fact that the guys trusted me to do it, and I hope to do it again sometime. I really don't know when that opportunity will arise. it was great.
So after the 9 shift to Matteo, we were flying formation, and I guess as we were flying along, we had some tape underneath the airplane come flying off, and Steve Sorensen was behind us. I guess he probably caught a few glimpses of the tape coming off. Before that, when Frank gave his briefing of the 9 shift formation, he said he didn't want any chattering going on the air, you know, unless he was actually literally on fire. So we got back over to the airport and landed, and Steve had come up to me and he said, "Yeah, man," he says, "you guys had quite a bit of, looked like you had quite a bit of tape coming off the bottom of that airplane there, and you know, I wasn't sure if it was going through the prop or not." And I said, "Well, you know, you should have, why didn't you speak up and let us know?" He says, "Well, he wasn't on fire."
Well, that afternoon we did the speed trials, and the speed trials are, their intention was to actually, you get your pole position based on your speed. In each class, the guy that would have the best speed time would launch first, slowest to the rear. So when it came turn for my trial, I used the panel cam for this. I really hadn't used it much. Just thought it might be some interesting footage, so I hooked it up and I did my speed trial, and it was really cool. One shot that I excuse me, one shot that I really didn't expect to get was just on departure. I just made my right turn to get into the pattern here for this, and I didn't really expect the way it came out on video, because you can see the performance of an easy. I mean, it was a 90 horsepower airplane, and it really kind of looks like a jet taking off from over my shoulder. You see this airport peeling away. And this is right off the runway, and then come around and I'm the right downwind, and then I get cleared to turn in, and I make my right turn, and I do my speed run. Well, after you make your run, you actually make a left turn to enter the left downwind to land. So I head out over the sound a little bit past the race buoys, and I pull up and I pitched, and you know, look up over my shoulder, and then make my left turn, come around and land. It was pretty interesting. I have no idea what my speed was as far as the timing was concerned, because something had gone wrong with they couldn't get the times working. So Jack Watson was basically making it up. Poor Jack, he had to sit there all day and just kind of figure out who they were. And, poor guy. Because I think he invented the speed trials 2 years earlier, and they worked fine when you have 30 airplanes, but not when you have like 90 airplanes, and it's hot and it's a long day, and there's just so much going on. So kudos to you, Jack. Nice try, buddy. But you know, I know you were kind of against the wall on that one. So that was the speed trials.
Well, this was my second year running the race, and unlike the first time around, this year there was 36 canards in the race and a total of, I think, 87 airplanes. It was pretty much the largest air race to ever be held in North America that I know of, I think that any of us knew of, and that includes some of the Bendix races in the 30s and so forth. The amazing thing is, in 2002, the first year I ran the race, there were a total of 4 canard airplanes, which was obviously an astounding change. And that really made me feel really great about everything. A lot of effort went into promoting it to the canard community, and those guys really came through. In some cases, guys flew all the way across the country to meet at Suffolk and Manio for the start of the race. It was amazing. It was excellent. I really don't know how to express the way that made me feel. Well, this year it was kind of, how would I put it? It was different. It was probably too big, but the logistics just to make this whole thing happen amazed me. The guys that pulled this off, the race committee, Eric White and Eric Anderson, they really work miracles. They did it last year, they did it in 2003, and I imagine they'll do it again in 2004.
What a gorgeous morning it was with the sun up and coming up, and it was nice and cool out, and Frank and I had a whole bunch of stuff, and we just didn't want to carry it all with us, so I ran all over the place trying to find somebody that could throw our stuff in their airplane, and finally we found the guys with the Cirrus and threw our stuff in there, all our bags, and they carried that all up to Dayton for us, and we got the airplane all prepped, and we all kind of stood around for fire up, and they fired up engines. Guys were taxiing out, and one after another they were taking off, and they called our number, and we jumped in the airplane, got it all fired up, ready to go, and taxied out, and we were all set. Everything was planned, and we were comfortable, ready to go.
Okay, ready to rock and roll.
We blasted off, and no sooner did we get airborne, all of a sudden the smell is a little bit of fuel, so I was a little hesitant about the odor of fuel in the airplane, but just after a couple, maybe a minute, it just dissipated and went away, so I figured it wasn't really going to be a big problem at all.
2, race 41, runway 23, turbo 4, square 410.
You smell that fake fuel? That's what I was talking about, man.
Damn. Yeah, I smell a lot of it.
Sure, we departed out of Manio, and then headed basically up the coast towards the first flight monument. This year, I actually launched behind number 24 Edgar Flag. And Edgar, it's hard to explain what Edgar did, though. And not to screw up the times, I didn't want to cut him off and actually go direct to the monument, because he was kind of heading up along the barrier islands instead of direct to the monument, which would have put him right down the runway. So he was running, instead of crossing the starting line the way he should have, crossed it at a 90-degree angle. So I fell in behind him and figured I'd roll in and pick up the starting line. Didn't matter that I didn't have that I lost speed at that point, because plus I got a nice view of the coast. It was really nice start. So we crossed over the monument, and Eric, a good flight. We decided today that we were gonna go for altitude. It looked, the way we calculated the winds, the best winds for us were going to be around 10,000 feet. Normally, it's kind of a strange thing when you're flying west. The prevailing winds in the summertime are really in your face, so you want to stay as low as possible. Well, in this case, it was different. The winds up higher were better. So we decided to do a nice cruise climb, Brad and I, and we figured we'd start testing the winds around 8,000 feet and then 9,000, 10,000 feet. And sure enough, that's what we did. But it was interesting, as once we got out over the sound past the starting line, it was really beautiful, the way the clouds were set up, and it was lovely. It was calm, smooth air. We were already passing Edgar, so we already knew we had somebody beat. It was kind of a nice feeling at that point. And trying to check in with Washington Center, it was almost comical. It was one of those things where he would hear every other word I said. I could hear him fine, but he didn't hear me. And actually, I have it on tape, the whole debacle. It's ridiculous.
Give me the type aircraft designator and the, I guess that's all I need.
Okay, type aircraft, very easy for race 20, cruising up to be 9.5.
9.5. Give me that type one more time slowly, I'm sorry.
Victor, Echo, Zulu, Echo.
Okay, one more time, I got the Zulu Echo part. The first part was cut out.
Victor, Echo, Zulu, Echo.
Victor, Echo, Zulu. Okay, flight Gulf.
We didn't get too far, and all of a sudden I noticed out the right side, I saw this LongEZ ahead of us, and we were actually catching up to him. I'm not sure who he was. We still to this day don't know who he was, but he was the first one that we passed, and that's kind of a thrill when you're flying a 90 horsepower airplane and you're passing a LongEZ. You probably got a 235 in there or something, you know. That was kind of a thrill. So we got some video footage of him.
I haven't identified him yet, though.
Yeah, he's going by. The LongEZ. The LongEZ. Got the lower winglet. It's the LongEZ, big straight.
Put it to him.
So we climb up to, we ended up going like 10,500 feet and heading west. And back down to 9,000, up to 11,000, all these different altitudes, just playing the wind game, just trying to find the best speed that we could. It was interesting because there was another guy that was going to be a close run with us, a guy named Ed Masterson, and he was listening to the same frequency and talking on the same frequency. So every time, and we were ahead of him, we launched ahead of him. So every time he would hear us make an altitude change, he would match the change. So I'd say, you know, center race 20, we're going to go to 10,500. Not 5 minutes later, or a couple seconds later, I'd hear Ed say he was going to 10,500. So we decided we'd play a little game with him there too, and try to beat Ed, because we knew at one point that the winds were better at 8,005. So when we switched frequencies, we knew he wouldn't switch for a few minutes. So as soon as we switched, I requested a different altitude, and it was at 8,500 feet, and I wanted to be there before Ed got on the frequency, so he wouldn't know I actually descended. And it was that kind of a chess game going on. At one point I wanted to switch while we were on the same frequency, and he didn't know where I was altitude-wise, so I wanted to tell center that I wanted to go up 2,000 feet from where I was. Sure enough, he announced, he said, "Oh, so you want to go to 10.5? And sure enough, Ed heard that, and he knew. It was interesting. It was a lot of fun. It took some of the time out of it. A lot of that flight, we were on top of a broken cloud layer. It was really, really beautiful up there. Again, it was smooth and calm. It really didn't feel much like racing. At one point, we flew over Shenandoah Valley Airport, which is this really interesting. It's a unique airport. It's on cut off the top of a mountain, and it's just a strange-looking thing. When you're at 10,000 feet and to look down a few thousand below you, there's this large runway just cut off the top of a hill. And I think we took some pictures of that, and then Brad took some shots over the back of his, back of his shoulder, and I did some turns to try to, just put something on film. It cost us a few seconds, but it was worth it. Did a lot of things like that. At one point, he took the camera over my shoulder, and it was really interesting because he had never done that before. He had never moved in the cockpit, and as soon as he did that, I really felt the airplane have a change in pitch. So I had to pitch full aft trim to fly level, and I had to apply some pressure to the stick to keep the airplane in level flight. So he's shooting over my camera. It was really kind of neat, and so I'm explaining where we are, how long we'd been flying. I think it was we had flown 300 miles in 2 hours. So really, it's not great. It was 150. Well, it's nautical miles, so we were doing 150 knots, which is not the best, but it's really not terrible either when you consider that we had that climb under our belt. We're up at 10,000, and we had another, I think, 170 miles to go. So with the descent, if we calculated properly, it was about an hour to Dayton.
Okay, we're just out of Summersville, West Virginia. We're about an hour out from the first pit stop, and it's about 100 miles. And let's see, we've been flying for... I can transponder, lost it. A second, here we go. We've gone 300 miles in 2 hours. And our max speed so far was 170 knots. That was probably right at the monument.
Approach is range 58 with you at 8,300.
Vector 58, Charles Bridge, Alpha 301.
So we did the math, and we figured out when would be the best time to descend. That way we could be just getting down to the pattern altitude as we approached the checkpoint, the pylon turn. Now, the pylon turn, this is a little different. It's quite different than it was the previous year. In 2002, the way that the flights launched, they launched the unlimited guys, and then the faster classes to the slower classes, and last being the sprint class, which was the class I'm in, smallest engine, you know. And the problem there was guys were landing in Dayton hours before we even took off. So they didn't want to do that with 87 airplanes. It'd be about a 12-hour window that the finish line would have to be open. So the guys would never be able to get out of the starting line, get to Dayton, and set up. It would be, the logistics would have been impossible. So what they chose to do this year was, or in 2003, was they launched the sprint guys first and then progressed in speed to the unlimited. And what that caused, when the sprint guys is about a 3-hour flight to Dayton, and then the unlimited guys is about a 2-hour flight to Dayton, and it's about an hour to get everybody going, or two, you know, what you would end up with is you'd end up with about a 15-minute window at Dayton, at the pylon, where every one of those 87 airplanes was going to cross at the same time. And that's pretty much how it went. So back to the descent, we started descending to Dayton approach, and it was still very smooth and calm. We had seen a few airplanes. We passed a couple blew by us. You know, the Berkut, Charlie Bracken went by us. He was doing 300 miles an hour. And, you know, we were doing half of that. And sure enough, we got a picture of that, actually. That was neat. We passed a few other LongEZs, and we were passed by some RVs, some larger engine airplanes. So we saw a little bit of both, you know, give and take. It was nice to pass somebody.
Hey, I finally passed somebody in a race.
Yeah, really.
Yahoo!
First time, we got it on tape.
So here we are. We started our descent, and it's still calm, but as we get lower and lower, things start to get more and more exciting. You start to hear more traffic and more chatter on the radio.
You know, everybody was calling in. They were coming over, you know, they were calling out a half a mile, 5 miles. They were calling all different distances and stuff, and all I could think of was, well, I hope I can get this on the video and get a good shot of this going over it.
Columbus departure. Traffic, that was close. 6-3.
Right 265 out.
Mark.
Right 53, very short final.
Mark.
Race 62 is 3 out.
13 miles.
9-3, 5 out. 9-3, 5 out. 89 is 6.6 out.
Race 19 is making a right downwind for runway 20.
Race 53, right downwind.
Race 62 is 2 out. Circling off to the west. What is that one?
30. Hang a right, Misha. Race 7, 1.5 out. Race 71, 5 out.
Race 9 is at 1,200 feet on right downwind. I have one in front of me.
Race 53, turn the right base for 20. Anybody else ahead? Race 89 is 4 out.
Race 94 is 16 out.
Ready? Mark! Thank you. Race 63 is right base, wide, right downwind, about 1.
Okay, race 19 is making a modified out pattern on the right downwind for 20. I have 2 in front of me. Is there anybody else?
Race 30, downwind 20. Hey guys, the pattern, keep your rhetoric short, okay? Race 93, short final. Race 89, 2 out. Aircraft coming to the finish line. What's your number? Race 93. 93, gotcha. Ready? Mark!
Here's the engine.
Yeah. Race 63 is right base. Race 62 is right downwind 20.
Oh, boy.
Aircraft mile off from the finish line. Your number? 89.
Power now.
89, gotcha.
Race 20 is 8 miles.
30 base. 845, 20 miles.
Race 72, 4.5 out.
89, Mark.
Race 19 is extended right base for runway 20.
We're we were down to about 1,200 feet in that ballpark. And I'm not sure why we got that low. But I really, in retrospect, looking back at it with hindsight being 2020, I wish I hadn't done that. Because in 2002, the first year I ran the race, I didn't see the airport, the pylon. And I didn't understand how I could have missed it. I mean, I had a GPS, and I had landmarks, and I had photographs of the approach to the pylon, and I couldn't see how I missed. I mean, I was on course, and there were these two fuel tanks that were 2 miles off the end of the runway, and where's the runway? I don't see it. So in 2002, I ended up pitching, looking over my right shoulder, and sure enough, then I saw it. Ended up going in and hitting the pylon. Well, this year I figured, okay, this time I've got it. You see the tanks, just press on, you're on course. You'll see it this time. Well, guess what happened? I didn't see the damn thing. I had no idea where it was. So I'm flying in, I'm asking Brad, hey, do you see this? What's going on? And then I see this, what looks like a runway, in the excitement, I guess. So I start heading for that, thinking it is, and then I realized, no, it's not. It wasn't a runway, it was just a road, like a highway that was around the trees. That's the way it looked like the runway. So then I figured, well, I better turn right, because that's where my nav unit says the runway is. So I start turning, I look over my shoulder, and I see all these guys, just dots, and you can tell they're really screaming down. And I can make out one or two distinctive, and they were both long, and they were heading right, for the finish line, because they were high coming down. Now the problem was, and why I didn't see the runway both years, was there was one runway going this way. It's 20 and 20, and then runway 9, which was the pylon. Well, it was masked by these very, very tall trees on this side of the runway. So if you were anywhere below basically 2,000 feet approaching the airport, you couldn't see the airport. You needed to be much higher to see it. So both years I was down too low, and all I could see was the trees. I never saw the field. So the way I picked it up actually this year is by when I made my turn and I saw those guys coming downhill, I knew it was over there. So I started making a radio call saying, I'm like 2 miles out. I'm 1 mile out, but there's guys coming right behind me.
620 is inbound. It's going to be a tight one. There's somebody else coming right up my end.
I'm going low.
Southbound regional, traffic star 203.
Well, I had blown off, I was down low and level, and we were running really hot, so throttling back a little bit and making turns, we'd lost a lot of our inertia, a lot of our energy. And we just couldn't really, we weren't screaming like we were a few minutes earlier. These guys, on the other hand, just came out of 20,000 feet, 10,000 feet, and just boogieing on downhill. So they're doing about 250, 300 miles an hour to our 150, 160 miles an hour. So doing the quick, dirty math in my head, I realized, well, we're pretty much going to hit the finish line at the same time, and I don't even know if they see me. So I cut them off, and I'm making a radio call saying, hey, they're right behind me, I'm cutting in now, and the finish line guys are like, who's this? Which one are you? And I'm like, race 20, and this guy's like 94, race 78. All these different guys everybody's hitting lines. So sure, if we roll in, time in a row, I'm hitting the line rolling. And I'm like, race 20 is rolling in right now, and there's somebody coming right on my ass, and bang, sure enough, here comes Jay Blunt right behind me. I think he was 78. We're out here. Right behind him, I think it was 94, 45, and it was like boom, 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 boom. Everybody's hitting the line at the same time. It was hairy. It was bumpy. Yeah, the visibility was awful. It was like maybe 3 or 4 miles. Airplanes everywhere. It was a zoo, but it was exhilarating. I've never been so thrilled to be frightened. And I swear, I was swearing a lot too. But, it makes for some colorful TV. At any rate, so we crossed the finish line. I'm like, I'm out of here. Great. So we basically extended just to kind of deconflict out of the area, and figured we'd clear and then try to land. The problem is, the pylon's this way, the landing is this way. So you basically had to exit, come around, and land underneath the pylon, the guys that are still crossing the pylon. The problem was, with so many airplanes at the pylon, you really couldn't always pick your altitude. In fact, at one point I think I said I'm going low, because I wanted, those guys were going to pass at like 50 feet. I wanted to be at 25 feet going over the pylon. But the problem was at 25 feet, somebody landing just a little bit long is just going to be right under me going 90 degrees out. So it was hairy. So sure enough, I ended up coming around. I get out on final approach, get a nice long, very flat approach because there's still guys coming up the finish. So as I'm approaching the field, I'm pretty much fixated on the numbers, and I'm seeing airplanes still crossing the finish line. And I'm seeing guys coming in, and that's where my attention was. You know, I was flying the airplane and all, but I never noticed these landing lights, approach lights basically, that were sticking up, and they weren't orange or white. They were
roll that
green.
out, would you please?
Runway lights, holy shit.
The landscape. And at the very last second, right before I nailed one of them, I saw them. And
Damn, that was scary.
landing lights! Whoa! Sure, it made a decent landing, rolled out, and then, you know, it calmed down. And whew, I gotta tell you, that was one of them moments. That was one of those, almost died like 5 times in about the span of 30 seconds or a minute.
And we came right up on those lights, and then Frank noticed them, and we kind of humped right over top of them and got her on the ground. It was like, oh boy, Miller time. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun. Yeah, it was just thrilling. It was euphoric. There's really no better word than euphoric. Would I do it again? You betcha. Oh yeah. I can't wait. I hope I get to do it a couple times this year. But you live and learn, and you know, hopefully you live when you learn. So we parked at Dayton, and then we stayed overnight. It was great, and ended up staying there for 2 days because the next day it rained all day. The weather stunk between Dayton and Oshkosh, so that delayed us the whole time. We hung around the hangar all day long. You know, it was awful. It was really crummy. But Tuesday morning, boy, oh boy, you want to talk about beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous morning. Got up, I was up at 4 every morning, from the day I left to the day I came home. Just the excitement, I could never sleep. So we get up Tuesday morning, get out to the airport, and man, it was glorious. It's a glory day. That's how I refer to it. Beautiful sunrise. I was at my plane before the sun came up. I got some pictures. In fact, there's people walking in, everybody showing up on the buses to that wonderful sunrise and getting their airplanes ready. It was excellent.
We went out and got off the bus, and just the most beautiful sunrise in the morning, and it made for the best video I think I've ever shot. I mean, just absolutely beautiful footage, and to see all those airplanes out there just dripping all the dew in the morning, and everybody wiping off the dew and talking to them. It was quiet out there, and everybody just getting everything ready for the time to come to fire them up. So a little while later, we jumped in the airplane. Everybody was ready to go. Plane started taxiing, and we just went ahead and jumped in. We got everything strapped in, and I was strapped in, and we were ready to go. And I wanted to get some good footage of us taxiing out. And we taxied behind quite a few aircraft. And as we sat and waited, I videotaped them taking.
I'm taking what I earned, will be taking.
Alrighty.
Here we go.
Yes, sir.
Taxi. Gonna have fun.
But me, I had enough of waiting around for some red tape. You know, it's just a fake. And I said, it's a big mistake. And we're all human, so there's no need to be taking it. With some honor and harmony, we'll shyly be making it. Just a little honor and harmony, yeah. Just a little bit of honor and harmony, yeah. Come on now. Watch out what choose to be our tactics in an age of computer toxins. Oh. When in this new era to come, we shall be organized and not supervised. From a physical to the spiritual, all our workings will be so critical. Our offense and mental will soar. You know that this ornamental shall be so pure. And we won't sweat the expense in the new millennium. We are raising through the fall, helping a healing God. The next awakening is you. And we're all human, there's no reason to be taking it. With some honor and harmony, we'll surely be making it. With a little honor and harmony, yeah.
Then it was our time to take off, and we got out there, gave them the thumbs up, and poured the coals to it, and blasted off out of there.
Race 20, have a good flight.
Thanks, buddy. Race 20 departing.
Toe to toe, eye to eye.
Say goodbye, everybody.
The next awakening is
That was interesting because we were full of fuel, and the runway was sort of uphill, so we really used up just about every inch of that runway on the takeoff. And, then it was a nice climb out.
There's our mark.
Race 90 starting.
Eric down there giving the old mark.
Just a couple seconds after we were on course, this raptor, a hawk or an eagle, I'm not sure what it was exactly. It was just pretty much a blob with feathers, and he had blue eyes, I know that. He went right by the canopy, and for a second there I thought we were going to have to return. I wasn't sure if we took damage or not, but didn't hear a thump and everything was normal, so we pressed on.
Whoa, bird, Jesus.
Sally with us.
On our way to Aurora. It was kind of interesting this time. We ended up, instead of going around different airspace like we did the previous year, we went direct to the pylon at Aurora, which would have put us through a MOA, and also we would have had to fly through Gus Grissom's airspace. But the more interesting thing about it was the weather. We were only about 2,000, 3,000 feet in that ballpark, and we were actually on top of a broken layer again. It was about a 10-mile long stretch of this weather, and it was beautiful again. And Brad took some pictures and kind of went all the way around the airplane with those pictures, and they're really neat to see. At one point, Tim Traynor, they passed us on the right side, number 97 in his LongEZ. And I actually called out on the radio. I said, hey, number 97, why don't you slow down? We'll join on you, as a joke.
I don't know, I hope not.
Again, just a little levity
Hey, 97, you
on the race.
Yeah, I hear you.
Who's that?
That's good.
Don't wait up. Yep, you'll fly off the wing.
Yeah.
897, slow down, I'll join. Okay. No, don't do that.
At one point, we picked up a LongEZ passing us low to the left. I still don't know who that was. We couldn't identify him. But the film actually looks more like a surveillance plane watching a druggie, drop his cargo. It wasn't the greatest film, but it was still pretty with the clouds and things like that.
Next thing you know, we get up there and we start checking our speed, and we had a darn 200 knot ground speed going over the ground, and we're like hooting and hollering, like, oh boy.
I gotta power it back a little bit.
170 knots?
Yeah, 170 knots.
From Holland. Making time.
Just under 200 miles an hour. I got her full rich though, Alright, the gas was cheap.
Yeah, free. Can't get any better than that.
And then we proceeded to start our descent and noticed that occasionally we had a couple bugs hitting the canopy. And Frank started, and I'm like, what's your problem? He says, they're coming through the vent. So they were coming through the vent and going into his mouth, and he's up there just spitting these bugs out like crazy and I was in the back just laughing, thinking, boy, this is a good spot back here, And so anyway, we ended up continuing the descent, and when we got over to Aurora and we had to make the pylon turn, they were really coming on heavy. The bugs were so thick, it was unbelievable. We're looking out on the wings and just looking at these things, and I'm like, that's not good. That's definitely not good.
He's rolling out on the traffic.
The entire canopy was covered. I could barely see out of that. And I looked back over my shoulder and checked the wings, and they were pretty much brown. And I felt a little bit sluggish, but not so much so until after we actually crossed the pylon in Aurora. We made the pylon turn and started to climb again. But the airplane really didn't want to climb. Nothing like normal. The normal climb rate for the thing was 3 times what we were seeing right then. And then the max speed was about 150, and that was it. The airplane just didn't want to go any faster. I was trimmed back, and I knew the airplane was going to be a kind of a dog for the rest of the race. But from Aurora to Oshkosh, it's not a long time, and it's straight north, and I wasn't going to land and wipe bugs off the plane while it was still flying. Again, in retrospect, thinking back, if I had known then what I know now, I would have landed at Aurora or someplace else and taken care of that. And well, if it ever happens again, I will do that. So we're flying north and climbing a little bit, not too much. We didn't want to waste too much time and energy in a climb that wasn't going to yield any results other than slowing us down. But the one thing I did notice was we were starting to get passed by guys that shouldn't normally pass us, some RVs and things like that, that weren't that much faster where they would have been blown by us again.
To avoid traffic to final line.
There he goes.
All inbound traffic to Fond du Lac Airport, please go to the northwest corner for you left now and enter.
We weren't sure if maybe he didn't see us. He kind of flew right across in front of us, so we caught a little bit of his wake turbulence and bounced us around a little bit, and we said, we'll take care of him later. So just before we got up to Fond du Lac, we noticed this red blob in the sky up there, orange blob actually, and it was that vintage Golden Age airplane with the big radial engine on the front. And they were just trudging along, and we came up alongside of them, kind of gave them a little bit of a wave and videotaped them a little bit.
Once we hit the shoreline, the southern shoreline of Lake Winnebago, we knew we were really close to Oshkosh, and it started to get really excited. Now, one of the things we had talked about the day before, and even that morning, was kind of a little contest to see, who could have the best pylon pass at the finish line, which was just a beam Warbird Island.
So we continued on up, and we were able to see the lake, and we got on the line on the edge of the lake there and started our descent. Started picking up some speed, and we kept talking about, you know, we got to find these balls out there on the water. And Frank had a hard time finding them at first, and I'm like, yeah, they're out there. I see them at about 11:30.
So I wasn't sure which one that it was going to be. There was an orange thing here, an orange thing here, an orange thing here. I was kind of pick an orange thing and fly to it.
He got an eyeball on him, so we started screaming down towards the balls there, and there was a boat out there with a bunch of guys on it, and we told them that we were going to try to see if we could get low enough, maybe knock off a couple of those guys off the boat into the water. So Frank proceeded to really get down low.
It was smooth and calm, so hey, what the heck, let's go water skiing.
And he got down pretty low there, and we passed over that boat, and they, I don't know if they shot at us or waved at us or what they did, but we made it past the boat and the buoys, and they called a mark, and so we climbed out and proceeded over to Oshkosh.
Okay, the Bonanza, you're following that high wind tail dragger. We're making right faces just outside the numbers. Make one smooth turn to final, and the Bonanza clear to land on the orange dot.
So I lowered the gear and slowed the airplane, and it kind of decided to stop flying. It started porpoising, stalling, canard was dropping. So I yelled at him. I said, shush! You know, in other words, sterile cockpit, it's business time.
Shush, shush. Okay, Seminole, very good. And Seminole, for now, I want you to put...
So with all the bugs on there, Frank put the gear down. That's when he realized that he had the problem. So we ended up, right away, he says, shush! And he said, we got a problem, Houston. And we knew right then that he had to put the gear back up and keep the speed up. And I guess on final, we were probably doing about 150, 160.
So I firewalled the engine, and I really had no option. I had to dive, basically, to get airspeed back because I was behind that curve. I put the gear up. I don't remember putting it back down, but I did. But I put the gear up so I can get some speed back and dove for the deck. Now the tower controller cleared me to land on 36 right, which is essentially a very narrow taxiway, the parallel taxiway to the runway.
Frank started saying some things like, boy, I don't know, this is really acting really weird. He says, I don't think I have control of this airplane. And anytime we started slowing down below 150 or 160 miles an hour, we started just porpoising in the sky. And we knew then that we were going to have a problem with the bugs. And Frank was holding on to that stick with all his might, flying that thing, and really trying to maintain control of the airplane. But it was a difficult thing to do.
And with the airplane handling the way it did, was handling right then, I didn't want any part of it. So I called back to the tower and said, race 30 is taking 36 left right now. And I mentioned the bugs and all this. John Lambert says he heard my communications. He says I mayday, but I do not remember doing that. And unfortunately, and it's a real killer that with Brad pausing and starting the tape so many times, he had stopped the tape, and we did not get this approach and landing.
The only bummer is that whole landing and all that footage, evidently the camera, I couldn't tell that it was on or off. I thought I had hit the button and turned it on, and we lost that footage. But that was really remarkable because they told us to come in on the taxiway, and they were launching airplanes on the main runway. So we ended up. Frank called him and he told him that he was going to declare an emergency. He says, I can't, the airplane won't fly. He says, I've got to land on the runway. So that's what I remember him saying, and he says, we're coming in on the main runway.
So as we roll into 36 left, the tower asked me to report 2 miles. So I did. I said, I'm 2 miles right now, and I'm very fast. And we were close to probably 150 knots descending towards the runway. I had a lot of power in, and at some point I put the gear back on, and I don't remember. I remember checking it on final, but as we were approaching the numbers, now slowing to almost about 130 knots, the airplane starts that porpoise again. And from when I first started flying the Easy, I remembered the very sensitive pitch moment in the airplane and how not to overreact to it. So, well, it was like back to basics again. So I just basically split the difference. I held the nose off, held the power in, and just let the airplane porpoise.
When we did touch down, we were doing right around 120 when we touched down on 3-6 left. And boy, you want to talk about porpoising. We were really porpoising because every time the canard came up, it stalled and came back down. He'd hold it back up and it'd stall, and you could just feel that thing porpoise like that. And finally, it was just a real nice, smooth touchdown. And what a relief!
So anyway, we touched at 120 knots, really fast for this airplane. It's about 40 knots faster than normal. And luckily, it was an uneventful landing. Rolled it out, and that was that. And we were at Oshkosh.
Well, here we are. We made it, just barely. Frank declared an emergency. Too many bugs on the canard, didn't want to fly right.
So the Ford became the first gauge runway in the world. And that runway was located at...
These are all the racers, that's our race tent.
Part of that runway is still in existence.
Well, yeah, we had a good time. Taxied in and ended up working for probably an hour getting the bugs off the airplane, and I just remember, going through quite a few cigarettes. I don't smoke very much, but I did after that. But the next thing after that, I guess we just kind of sat around and took it easy for a little while just to get our bearings again. It was exciting.
back of a nightingale. Just get to me. I don't care, just get to me. Pro-cats, mopeds, take a limousine instead. They ain't cheap, but they're easy to find. Get on the highway, point yourself my way. Take a roller coaster that comes in sideways. Just get to me. Yeah. Go on, get your ride on the back of a butterfly. There's no better way to fly. Get to me. I look around, what I got without you, it ain't a lot. But I got everything, with you everything. Well, maybe you could pollinate over the Golden Gate. Take a left-hand turn at the corner, hey, and then a sharp right at the first street light, and get yourself on a motorbike. And if you think you get stuck in a traffic jam, that's fine. Send yourself through a telephone line. It doesn't matter how you get to me, just get to me. Go on, get your ride on the back of a butterfly. There's no better way to fly. Get to me. I look around, what I got without you, it ain't a lot. I got everything, with you everything. 'Cause after every day, the wind blows the nighttime my way, and I imagine that you are above me like a star, and you keep on glowing, and you keep on showing me the